How's it going, everybody? Welcome to the next video here at the Emporium, and today we're gonna do something a little bit different. We don't have anybody in the studio. It's just me today, and we got three awesome phones in front of me. Now, you're probably saying, Connor, what are these phones that you got in front of me, eh? I'm like, okay, so let me pull this up because one of the names on here is very, very long. So first off, we have the LG Wing. Now, this phone, I'm gonna get deeper into it, but this one is very, very different, peculiar, and if anybody watched Iron Man and was a big Marvel fan like me, that looks just like Tony Stark's phone from the first movie, and that's probably the main reason why I like this phone. Next up, we have the Samsung Galaxy Fold. Look at this thing. I mean, this I have gripes with it. It definitely is an awesome phone. For the price tag though, is it worth it? I'm gonna get into that. And then the last phone is need to find. Let me make sure I get the name for this right. This is the LG V60 ThinQ 5G. Now this phone is basically a phone case. So you put the original LG 60 in here, and you buy this case to have a second display on it, which out of the other three, which all of these are multi-screen devices, what do I think about them? So let's go back to the LG 60, right? This phone, from the moment that I saw the first video about it to me having it in my hands right now, the number one thing that I think the usability of this, so if you're in the market for one of these phones, would be for the multitasking purposes. And other than that, it's just a cool thing to have, you know? So when it comes to the camera, right? And I kind of put this on my Instagram a little bit, where there is a gimbal feature. So you can change the direction of the camera as you are recording, which is insane. Absolutely insane to me. I mean, this is a phone! This is a phone! You know? And it's like, when I thought of what technology could be in a phone when I was a child, I would never imagine that they'd be able to throw a stationary gimbal with 3 different modes on it inside of the phone. Now, as technology gets better and better, I'm astounded. I'm just in awe of the things that we're able to put in these devices. All right, so one of the other big features about this phone, besides the camera and the cool, well, actually, this is still kind of about the camera, is the motorized, what is it? Selfie camera, right? Instead of having an in-screen display, right? So you have a notch, which adds to your bezel a little bit. I know a lot of us want to get to this bezel-less future. I am one of them. They went for the motorized option, which companies like Oppo created a phone that also had a motorized front and back camera. So when it comes to the longevity of your device, now I don't know how much testing was done for this motorized display, but that is one moving part in your phone that can go wrong, okay? And I think that's a very important note, because this isn't the only phone with a motorized camera to give you that full, beautiful, no bezel, full screen display, as you guys can see right here. But some of the other features that are pretty great are like, if I want to watch YouTube, right? And I can put YouTube on one screen, and maybe I want to do some, look at my stocks. I can do that. I can do that on both screens, which I'm gonna have a better view of this during edit. And I think it's super interesting. It's super interesting because I think the idea of having a regular phone that is still very, very nice form factor. This is very nice screen to body ratio. I think it's important that, like, having these new technologies come out, which I know that LG, people who made this phone, created a model of this way back in the day. Like I was saying, for Iron Man, that was his first phone in Iron Man 1. And I think it's interesting. It's very, very interesting that they brought this back. They brought this form factor back. And for the price of this phone is surprisingly I would say the second cheapest because the LG V60 dual screen and this phone are relatively the same price. They're both around $500, which for a phone this great, I think that is an absolute steal. Like if this was $1,000 phone, because I understand this is like this could totally be a flagship. It's it's just I don't know if I would like it as much. You know what I'm saying? Because if this phone was more expensive than what it was, I probably wouldn't have the same first impressions, because the second phone I'm going to get into is the Samsung Galaxy Fold. Now, this phone, I honestly, this is the most expensive out of the two. This is going to put around a $2,000 dent in your pocket to get this. And do I think it's worth it? It depends on what you're looking for in your phone, right? Like the main screen, so when it's unfolded, your regular phone size is very small. I don't think that this right here. I mean, you could, for calling somebody, maybe even sending a text, but for me, I have big fingers, so when I'm texting on this little screen, it is it doesn't really work for me. It's something that I have a big gripe with because of how expensive this phone is. Now, like I was saying with the LG Wing, if this phone was a little bit more expensive, I would probably have different thoughts about it. But because it's around $500, I think that there's just so much going for it. Now, for $2,000, there's I don't think that this is something that I would personally want to go out and trade in for my main phone. Now when it comes to the open display, right? So when you have the phone completely open, this is half a tablet. This is not a full tablet. Now what I mean by that is I do not think that this phone, unless it was bigger, right? And it's already a chunky boy. It's a pretty chunky boy, okay? I don't think that I would consider this half a tablet. I would consider it a bit, or I wouldn't consider it a tablet. I would consider this a bigger phone, simply for the fact that it is a nice screen. It's OLED, foldable, fantastic. But I don't think that this could replace a tablet. And if you have something like an iPad Pro already, and then you have your iPhone, which I do. I'm an Apple user. I love Apple products. I wouldn't consider this that. I wouldn't consider this the iPhone and the iPad in my pocket, because the iPad, the reasons I use an iPad is for things like Procreate, right? Making thumbnails, or if I just want a bigger screen to like doodle or watch a movie or watch some YouTube or read an article, because it's so much bigger. Now this, I don't think hits that mark. I just don't. There's a lot going for it. I mean, the fact that you can fold the display is absolutely insane. And it brings me back to those flip phone days where everybody had a razor. We could, and you would get that cool, satisfying, closing, the closing sound, and just the way it felt. Now this, when you open it and you fold it, I do gotta say, they did kind of kill it with it. It definitely feels quality. I mean, for $2,000, I'm hoping to God this thing feels quality, because it feels sturdy. It feels heavy. It has weight. It feels like I'm holding something that has great substance to it, which is pretty good. I mean, that's something that this phone did right. But I don't think that I don't think it's something that I would run out of my house to go get, right? I'm not 100% sold on the folding universe yet. It's definitely super interesting and awesome. But when it comes to practicality of me actually wanting to use this phone on a day-to-day basis, I think it's a cool secondary phone, but a secondary phone that costs $2,000, right? And I got to keep bringing that up because this is a very expensive device that I don't think is 100% worth it in my opinion. Now the LG Wing, on the other hand, look at that. Let me do that for you again. Oh my God, that. Now this phone. Now if I'm just putting it between these two, I would say go get yourself a Wing, because the Fold. I don't know. There's just things with it where I'm like, I don't know if this is exactly, if this is like the future that I would want to partake in, right? Like I here I have my regular iPhone. Let me make sure I take this out of the case. And when you're putting this, which is the regular iPhone 10 from a while ago, the size comparison of these is this is much taller and fatter, but that screen ratio, right? And I'm going to go back to talking about how I was, this isn't an iPad, it's just a bigger display. It's not something that I would consider a tablet in any way, shape, or form. But when it comes to multitasking, if you have the Wing and you have the Fold in front of you like I do right now, right? If you need to have 4 different window captures on your display, so say you need to have your news, you need to have your Amazon shopping cart, you need to have your stocks, you need to have I don't know, like that, just another browser up. And you need to have all these multiple screens going at once and being able to monitor them all at the same time, I would say go for the Fold, because the screen to body ratio compared to any of these other devices is pretty amazing. And I mean, being able to not have, like, this right here is the LG dual screen phone, where it's basically like having 2 phones next to each other. I think that having this non-bezel-less display where it's just cut across the entire screen, where it's just clean, there's no bezels, it just looks, let me make sure it's, come on, turn on phone, you gotta fucking do it, no, oh, here we go. See, and on top of that, another gripe that I have with this phone is I put in my fingerprint for the fingerprint scanner, and there's some times where it'll say no match, and I got to do it again. And maybe that was my fault for maybe how I recorded my, how I activated the fingerprint sensor, and maybe I was doing it too broad, or I didn't do it enough in a certain spot and where I'd be grabbing the phone. But for a $2,000 phone, right? I mean, I'm not going to give this any slack because of the price. That shouldn't be happening. And this is the second version, right? They had the first version of the Fold, which had a lot of issues. People peeling off this protective film. It looks like a screen protector, but it's not. Just for anybody who ever gets this phone, do not peel off the front screen protector, because it's part of the OLED display, and it's the only thing that makes it work. And if you take that off, the phone will be busted and broken. Okay, so I think it's time to move to the last phone, and I'm gonna go back to all 3 of these as I have been doing. But the LG ThinQ 5G, this phone, I got to say, is probably the most, I don't know. It's this phone, which I got my maps up there and your regular phone on the other side, and you can't really see that. It's pretty washed out. If you are in the LG market, right, and you're looking for an LG phone for multitasking in particular, this one's kind of hard, because between the Wing, you do have one big display, and then you have this half display on the bottom, right? And I think that if you wanted 2 big screens, right, and you wanted to be able to have, both things open at the same time on 2 fold screens, like maybe you want to have like your Discord chat here, and I don't know, whatever you're discording about right here, right? And I could see why that would be great. On the end, another big appeal is that you can fold it kind of like a mini computer, right? And you can have it propped up watch what you need to watch, and it just is kind of there, right? And if you don't want the second display, boom, it just goes all the way to the back. It turns off, and now you just have your phone. Because a big difference between this and the other phones is that this is a case. This phone comes out of here, and it's not a part of this whole entire unit, right? But the biggest thing I have, or the biggest problem I have with this, and you guys probably noticed it when I picked it up, is this little thing. Hold on, let's put that against the background. This thing right here. So this is a MagSafe charging adapter. So if you have this case on your phone, you have to have this little adapter thing to charge both the phone and the secondary screen. Now, when it comes to somebody on the go, somebody going from place to place, and you're grabbing things out of your bag, you're putting things together, I think that this right here is going to be one of the easiest things for you to lose, period. And that is probably my biggest turnoff to this device. And when you have something like the LG Wing and the dual screen almost for the same exact price, depending on what carrier you go to. I mean, I'm going to tell you to get the Wing every single time, depending on your need, of course. Like I said, if you need 2 big screens for whatever reason for your multitasking purposes, that's fantastic. But now, one of the things about the LG screen, though, that I think is pretty cool compared to all these other 3 that they don't have is this is not a full screen on the front, right? So this is the front of the case. And it's just a little display that lets you know the time, your battery, the date, and a couple little notifications you got over the time you haven't opened your phone or looked at your notifications. And I like that. I really, really like that, because I think if I don't have to open up my phone, or I don't have to have my full screen blast me in the face at 1 o'clock in the morning when I get a text message or I get some notification that's important, I think that's great, right? And Apple's coming out, they came out with a case that they put in, I want to say it was one of their last, big press conferences where they were releasing new products, where they're going to make a case for the iPhone that kind of does what this does, where you put the case over it and there's going to be a display like that that's going to show up on your phone. And I'm a fan of that, right? I mean, less screen time, the less amount of time I have to look at my phone, especially like in those late hours at night, I think the better, and it's better for your health. It's better to help you go to sleep. And there's a lot of benefits to things, to a little tiny display like this that gives you little tidbits of information. Okay. So let's get to the final verdict, right? So if I'm looking at the LG Wing, I'm looking at the Samsung Fold, I'm looking at the dual screen, which one am I gonna pick? I think because of the price, because of some of the camera features, because of the way that this phone slides like this, it's the Wing. This phone is the one that I would choose out of all 3 of these on a consumer level. Reason I wouldn't choose the Fold: 1, price. $2,000 is extremely steep for a display that is only this big when I'm not putting it in big screen mode. Because there's going to be times when, if I'm having this phone out and about and I'm going to have to fold it open to use it, I don't like that. I like being able to use my device with one hand firmly and not having to reach over and trying to grab whatever I need to grab on here or text. And I don't think this is something that, and this is even kind of contradictory, because I think it will last, because the technology of this phone is amazing. I think being able to create folding displays, being able to collapse our displays are something that is the coolest thing to happen in phones in, I don't know, the last decade, right? But I don't really think I would get one. you know, if I say like Apple, right, who they have patents and are going to be coming out with their own folding display very soon, probably in the next 2 years, would I buy theirs? I don't know, because this, I don't think that this is something that I would be married to. I don't think this would be my main phone. If I were to get a folding display phone, I feel like it would be my secondary phone, you know? And for $2,000 for your secondary phone, as I already mentioned, is a lot. And being able to get a phone like this, which has dual screen. Now, granted, it's not folding. There is a bezel between, is a great substitute for a second phone with two displays on it. For the price, at least. I mean, this is a sub $500 phone. Now, this, like I already said. Oh, pause. Now, this phone, the LG Wing, I think they killed it. I don't think there's just nothing about this phone that I'm like particularly hate, or I'm like, this is bad. You know, oh, let me got some fucking dust under that camera lens right there. And the camera features. I mean, the fact that I can do something like this, where here, hold on, let me pull this up real quick. So when I'm in dual recording, I have that little first surface thing go up, where you have this, where you can record with two screens and you can see what's around me. And yeah, like this is awesome. And one of the other great features is the fact that you can change it up, right? So let's go into it right now. So this is the second dual recording mode, where you can record what's in front of you, behind you, and you're in the little corner. And I think this is awesome. This is fantastic for the people who vlog, people who want to have like make a reaction video. There's a lot of benefits to this. And did I already mention there is a gimbal on this phone that you can change the directions of? I mean, come on. Like, having that in a phone that costs less than $1,000 is insane. And the camera quality is great. I mean, there's just not much to hate about this. Now, the only thing I guess you could hate is that I'm not 100% sure. I do not think this is an OLED display, which, you know, I mean, great, maybe not great. I mean, if you're not a fan, if you're a diehard to the OLED community, and that's something that you are particularly want in your device, and I mean, hey, there's other options than the Samsung Fold, but the Samsung Fold is the only option on here with an OLED display. So yeah, I don't think there's really much else. I've only had a very short time with these phones. I had only less than 12 hours. So I mean, yeah, that's kind of like my final verdict on these when it comes to the average consumer on what would I tell you to buy, right? So like I said, Samsung Fold, if you need to do multiple things, and I'm talking about 4+ windows on your phone and have to do multiple things at the same time, I mean, hey, the Samsung Fold is there. Am I saying that is the only option? No. But it does what it does well. It feels sturdy. The quality's great. But I just think that for the price, you know, and over time, as more folding displays and more companies hop on this bandwagon, the price of it's eventually going to go down, because that's just how innovation works. I don't think right now this is something I would recommend to have as your only phone. Just for that, because for me, right? I mean, this is my opinion, but I'm saying if I'm going to recommend you something, it's not going to be the fold out of these three phones. Now, the Wing is great for people, like I said before, if you got like two things you need to do, right? You can have like your stock sheet up here and like your Discord chat down here, right? Or you can play a game up on top and have the controls on the bottom, or you can watch a video on the top and be in like a text message with your buddy. There's a good amount of versatility to this, and I think that is so satisfying. Just hold on, hear this. I don't even know if it really came up on the screen. I'm gonna go back and check to see if it did, but Like I really like this phone. I really, really, really like this phone. And I think that LG, which is a company that I've never really had an LG phone. They did this right. They really, really did this right. And now the ugly brother out of the three, the third stooge, the dual screen LG 60. Like I said, okay, so this phone and the wing are relatively the same price. And I think that this phone I would say get the wing. I would just say get the wing because having two screens next to each other is great, but I think that the form factor of the wing, the way that it works, the way that the screen flips, the way that the way that you interact with the phone is so much better than just two phone screens next to each other, right? So my final verdict out of all three of these phones, the LG wing, 100%. I think when it comes to price, when it comes to the form factor, the way it works, the functions that this phone has, it kills it. It absolutely kills it because when you look at the fold, it's just kind of like it folds, which is great. It's cool. It's very awesome. But I think the wing is definitely the one that I would choose. Yeah. All right. So thank you guys for watching this video. This was a pretty short one. I'm pretty sure, actually, it's not very that short, 26 minutes. Thank you guys so much for watching. Please subscribe, like, do all that. Will I be coming out with more technology review videos like this? Possibly, as Obi-Wan Kenobi would say, possibly. But yeah, we'll see what happens in the future. So yeah, like, subscribe, comment, do all that stuff. And if you didn't like the video, leave a dislike. That also helps me. I really don't care. So yeah, have a great day, all of y'all, and I'm out.